right, welcome back to the House Judiciary Committee this Thursday afternoon, April 23rd, and we're going to turn our attention for a little bit to S209, and then we're going to hear about the relinquishment, firearms relinquishment study and recommendations in advance of possibly looking at language coming from the Senate at some point. But figure we just get that kind of background introduction. But let's start with that. Starting with S209. The main thing is I kind of wanted to go over some of what I thought I would suggest to our legislative council to have in an updated version, and wanted to walk through what I think that we should have them do, and then we can also kind of open up and talk about if other people have some other ideas as well. So just kind of starting. I really think, from the testimony I've heard and from comments from members, it's passed by the Senate at this point, that there is an issue, and I agree with this as well, that the concept of traveling to, entering, or returning from some of these various locations is really amorphous and really kind of open-ended. And what I am would suggest to legislative council is that that language could apply for courts because it has applied that way for a while, but also for schools, for educational institutions, because I think can be pretty clear, really established. But for all the other ones, that it would be that the protections would extend to the premises, so the place of worship, the healthcare facility, etc. So that's kind of one of the suggestions I'm going to make. And so the other thing is I have talked to Rick offline on this a little bit further on place of worship and whether a definition is needed, and we can hear from him again. He really feels that this is an established term in our statute and in case law. But we can hear from him again on that. But actually backing up, the subdivision D, I'm going to suggest that we make clear that the last phrase, establishment distributing food, that we're talking about food pantries there. We're not talking about grocery stores, just to make that very clear. So let me see what else I had as far as just suggestions. Those are the main ones. I guess that there's a couple questions as far as additions I really think we should add libraries, and I've heard, I think that was fairly compelling, that should be a protected place. And I do also understand that there are folks that really think that we should consider state buildings or buildings that are under state control that have I guess, how would I put it? Provide services to individuals who come to those locations. I'd certainly like to hear input on. Yeah, Karen.
So with that, I didn't know if we're going to take testimony, because I
would like to take testimony.
Okay.
This is just to have a version that does these things that we can then have folks testify.
Okay, because I have been specifically asked about libraries and state buildings as well. So I feel like if we're coming up with a list, like I would like to be as inclusive as possible. So.
Okay, and just actually, so I can have that put on for this next version, so we can have it for discussion purposes and see if we can get some people coming in on that. I know I'm going to put a question mark on polling places. I know we've talked about this. So I'm kind of putting like a marker by that on whether we can try to narrow that, maybe hear a little bit more testimony on live. We did hear some testimony, but maybe a little bit more on that one. So that one's kind of, I'm suggesting that we keep it in for now, but with a question mark by that one, and what we're going to actually do with that particular one. So I think those are the things that I had, but I also, if anybody else wants to weigh in, I know some people don't like this at all. I understand that. So, but just to kind of move this along, I think some of these changes does narrow this. I understand adding a couple things obviously doesn't narrow it.
Who is this applicable to? This is only for civil lots.
Correct. So it doesn't count if there's, I mean, it's an exemption if it's a warrant or an order. And we did hear from Julio as far as does that take away the discrimination?
And this was created because of ICE, correct?
What's that?
This was created because of ICE, correct?
I assume so. This came from the Senate. Just dealing with.
Well, we've already got it on record before now anyway, I think.
I think that's probably seems about right.
Are we gonna have any kind of discussion about it? right
Yeah,
now?
please, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
the
I just want to kind of, yeah.
Probably not a surprise, I'm not in favor of adding state building, but regardless of that, how the Senate feels about state building since they pulled it. I mean, with that,
Do we know why they did?
I feel like I would like
No,
to
they
hear
did.
testimony to understand, like if
Right.
there's a good reason not to,
Sure.
that would be very helpful.
no, I understand,
That's where I'm coming from, because I feel like I don't have an argument right now of why not? If we're including all these other things, why not state buildings? And I don't feel like we've heard any reason why we shouldn't include one. That's where I'm.
And the argument that I've heard for including it is that this is the one area where there's case law that has found that you can do this is with state building. Frankly, I don't think that's the best argument for why we should put it in here. I think it should be the logistics and the practicality of whether it makes sense. So again, getting some testimony on it, I think is.
and overall, on all the additions, when we. 7, 8 years ago, probably, that we did it for court buildings, court proceedings or whatever. And it was courts only and I remember what a heavy lift that was in here. Just to add courts and that was it. And it's almost like. I almost get the feeling by adding all these other pieces. That the mood, I guess, this is just me, the mood in the room or the vibe, I guess. It isn't that big a deal to add all these when I distinctly remember adding or the original bill of courts was monumental. It was monumental, something that never been done before. And to expand it like this is, I don't know if it's a word I can use, but makes it bigger than monumental, but
Never ending.
that's why I have a problem with expanding it so much all at once. Because of the history that I have in the committee and what we've done in the past. And if I remember, I voted toward expanding it to courts. Good argument, and I didn't think it was that bad of a thing, but to go to something that makes it all day, every day in normal life, that certainly was not even close to our intent back there, back then.
In normal circumstances, you know how I feel about it, but in normal sets of circumstances with the ICE issue aside. The immigration issue aside, would we be doing this? I don't think so. When people are going to court, I can almost see it being an exception, a legitimate exception, because they're going to court and they're going to clear up a legal issue. We're talking about people who have a warrant for them already, civilly or criminally or something. Right? But if they're going to court, they're attending to their business, and even if we stop them and they have something, well, we'll give you that ride there, because that's what's going to happen when court's open anyway. All right. Vermont law enforcement officers don't make arrests on civil arrest warrants anyway, unless they have the warrant or the order. They're not going to make one without probable cause being found by a judge yet. It's an ICE issue. And we're giving people potential alibis to Say fugitive. If you want to call it civil violation, fugitive battle.
And that is,
But there are varying degrees too, you know, we don't. We don't know what folks have for, there's no reason why I would even be aware of somebody's civil warrant or non-civil warrant that ICE is looking for. I would have no idea. I don't know how I would know that that person was wanted by ICE without a warrant on a civil violation. I have no idea how I would even know. So I'd be having a legitimate law enforcement contact if I made contact with somebody. And that'd be the end of it. So I'm just. Yep.
no,
That's
no,
my feeling. It just doesn't make sense to me at all, because it's not gonna happen.
right, definitely. And I think I definitely took to heart what you were saying about the issue of the travel to and from and all that stuff. And so I know that's not far enough for what you want, but hopefully that is at least somewhat helpful, but. Anything else before I have Todd just kind of weigh in the one attorney general component of this, which we haven't heard from him yet? Yeah, Ken.
So I just, it's just like on the bookstores, because I can't pronounce that.
What?
The bookstore.
Library?
Thank you. Uh,
Gotcha.
It's like,
We should expand it.
no, it's like we're just creating more and more and more safe spaces, and it concerns me, and I think it's out of control. It's like we're controlling more people's lives all the time, and we're putting good people more at risk. Like there was just there was a woman in Virginia that just came up, and this is real, that and I know nobody wants to hear about ICE, but this person looks like a sweet person and everything like this, a murderer from another country, and like I'll go here, go there, and put the average person at risk. I have a huge problem with this. And we've done it. I think we're creating more of a problem to continue to go down this path, and it goes against what I think. I'm not going to get into.
I also have one other concern that I think it's very disingenuous. I think we're giving people a serious false sense of security. With oh, I can go now, and then they get picked up. Who are they going to look at? Us. If you have issues, you should take care of them. That's all I got.
What else before we have time? And we'll have more discussion when we get to next week, so this is going, yeah. Todd, why don't you join us and just address the really, page 3, line 13 to 17, where the Attorney General, how does that whole, just comment on that? Page 3, 14 to 17.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
For the record, Todd Delos, Assistant Attorney General. Good to be back with you all. And to the chair's point, I'm happy to speak. I think Julio Thompson from our office has come in to talk to you about this bill. He's out this week. Otherwise, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to talk through some of the civil rights constitutional issues. I'm not fully prepared to answer those questions. It also sounds like everybody kind of knows where they are. So the only thing I think the chair asked me to come speak about is the existing civil action authority that the AG's office has. This is the ability of the AG to bring a civil action on behalf of Vermont for injunctive relief, meaning you guys know this stuff, equitable relief, or declaratory relief if there is a reasonable cause to believe that a violation of subdivision 1, which is the sensitive locations of this section, subsection C, has occurred or will occur. So this really is an opportunity for the state to take action through the Attorney General, likely to halt an activity that was deemed in violation of this or reasonably would be in violation of this, or potentially to seek damages around it. One thing I would just flag there on the damages issue, in other sections and other statutes, damages are actually stated. So by way of example, totally different world, but it's one that I operate more in the consumer space, there's sort of set damages for violations of the Consumer Protection Act. In the tobacco space, something else we're working on, there are set damages if there's an unlicensed sale of tobacco products. So that would be something to think about. We're not advocating in any particular direction. I will say from a litigation standpoint, the litigation would then be, if we were seeking damages for a violation, it would be demonstrate that there's liability by the actor, whomever it is, whoever unlawfully executed a civil arrest at a court, which is the current state of the law. Then what those damages would be up to a jury at trial, and that could take quite a while. And I'm not sure what the legislative intent there is. So I just put out there that in certain other circumstances, the legislature has seen fit to provide a figure there. Again, we don't take a policy position on it, but
You want to take a stab at a constitutional position?
on that provision or overall?
That,
Sure. What's the question?
well, it would be just regarding the finding yesterday in the Ninth Circuit.
Mhm.
You're gonna be able to bring damages or all the remedies that are listed here, civil action, so, to us, but not to the federal officer. And that's the reason why we did this, and so that sort of seems like a missing clause issue.
Certainly, I think that would be a defense to any action that was brought by the state. I would anticipate if it were a federal officer, right? I mean, I think state officers would be pretty straightforward. A federal officer, I think there are a number of different defenses they could claim. I would say, based on the Ninth Circuit's decision, as I read that decision, it's an expansion of existing case law. I think it is also focused on the operational control that the Ninth Circuit saw was being applied to the federal workforce and federal officers. Not simply the discrimination part, but the actual, I can't remember the word that the Ninth Circuit uses there, but it's really about reaching into the control, not simply saying, everybody's got to make a right turn the same way, therefore the federal government does. I think this falls arguably somewhere in between those two, because civil process and civil arrest, I think, is a broader concept than masking by law enforcement agents. Mm-hmm. So I would not be confident in saying yes or no to that question, but I do think it's not completely on all fours with the Ninth Circuit's opinion. And as you all know, we sit in the Second Circuit, which is the controlling precedent for Vermont.
We'll have Julio in next week to address 208 and 209, given the Ninth Circuit opinion as well.
Well, we don't, as you know, Vermont law enforcement officers don't make arrests unless they have a warrant for a civil violation.
Yeah.
So then what is the purpose?
I think I would have to look more into, I think there are other avenues for civil arrest beyond law enforcement.
Beyond law enforcement?
Yeah. Like, if I find it, I'll get back to you, but I have a vague recollection of other processes that can be served outside of the law enforcement context for civil arrest.
An arrest?
Let me check.
And I think Julio did touch on that when he was in on this already once, and we'll have him back.
Oh, okay, but if it's not a law enforcement officer, then it wouldn't be applicable.
Being arrested.
So
If I find it
I'll
outside of
miss here or something.
Any other questions for Tom? All right, So, we'll wait for, we'll go off live until, Carolyn gets here to, and if you could pass out the, that report so everybody has it in front of them, but we'll go off live.